and that's not the first time it's been mentioned here on this program. So you very, very eloquently further clarified that. What about some of the other illustrations or some of the other messianic figures, so to speak, which are illustrated in ancient Egypt, like Horus and his mother Isis and other such mother? Have there been other such experiments?
Well, that's all really part of the same thing, because when you look, you have to go back to Samaria, where the religion began, Semiramis and Nimrod, and they were, if you look at the statues of them created by the Sumerians, they have a human form with reptilian-like features.
Correct. Yeah.
And they're holding a human baby that has reptilian-like features.
Wow.
And those were the original blue bloods. And their symbol is always using the number 3, or the three-horned god, which they can represent as a trident, as a cross, as a hat with 3 prongs on it. There are so many ways over the centuries and millennia that they have depicted the three-horned god. And when you look at Bush and his family, or any of the political leaders here and abroad, when they wave to the camera, wave to the crowd, they always have the 3 fingers up in the air, the three-horned god, and sometimes they make the double salute with their hand as well, with the horn sticking out. And people think that's some kind of, fraternity.
Yeah, a little nuance there.
Right. And I remember when Bush took office, and he did that symbol, and the newspaper said that it was an old Texas salute. Well, then why does the leader of France do it? And why does Queen Elizabeth
does it?
do it?
Right.
Did they go to Texas too? It's just bizarre what the media presents, and people go, oh, okay.
Yeah. They don't observe, they don't watch, and I guess maybe it takes a mind like mine who is going to continue to pick and probe and notice patterns, that yes, they all are basically doing the same thing. There's a pattern of behavior and expression in which you watch all of these people. They all do it.
Yes. Every single one of them. And it's common across the board. And in fact, someone, and I forgot who it was on the internet, put together a little video of all these people all over the world doing these signs, from Hollywood actors to political people to soldiers, and it didn't matter what country. And he put it all together, and you could just see across the board, these are the people running things. They're all the same reptilian religion, the three-horned god.
Wow. Folks, you're listening to the Investigators Report. I'm Gary Pt4 with my very, very special guest, Mr. Stewart Swerdlow, and we are engaged in a fascinating discussion and really expose of the blue blood history. So stay with us, because there's a lot more to come. So now, Stewart, with this being the case, and you and I kind of touched on this again from our last conversation, just how much of the gospel account that we read in the Bible is contrived or taken from actual events, like such the feeding of the 5,000, the walking on the water, all the different miracles. How much is reliable accounts in terms of Emmanuel?
Well, quite honestly, I'd say very little of it is actual. And if you read the different accounts, they don't all match up either. They all have different perspectives, different viewpoints, and sometimes if you read them, you wonder, okay, why is this all in the same book called the Bible when it's saying all these different things?
Right.
It's like someone put together a book, of poetry from all different kinds of authors. In around 330 A.D., the Piso family in Rome was commissioned to rewrite the Bible, the New Testament, in a fashion that can be used as a New World religion for Rome at the time. And in order for the pagan Romans to accept the new religion, there had to be some kind of matching ceremonies, belief system that they could just literally snap into place over the old one. And that's why we have Christmas, for example, on December 25th.
Right.
Which, if you read the accounts of the birth, it really took place in the springtime, around March 20th or so, according to the descriptions of what was going on. And yet we're celebrating the birth on December 25th. Why? Because that was the Feast of Saturnalia in the Roman Empire that was celebrated by feasts and orgies and sacrifices. And so the Romans weren't going to give that up so easily. So just take the new religion ceremony and impose it over this one and call it a different name. But it's the same holiday, basically.
Right.
That's why we have Christmas on that day, which is really an orgy fest.
Mm.
Then you look at Easter, and that goes back to old Teutonic and even Persian origins, where Esther, Oester, was related to Ishtar, the Persian god of fertility, who demanded sacrifice. And in Sumeria and in Persia, the sign of fertility and worship, they used an egg because it was always fertilized by the phallic symbol. So the egg became the symbol of Easter. Had nothing to do with the rising from the dead. It had to do with the springtime celebration and the sacrifice of virgins and young living things so that the crops would grow, the gods would let the crops grow. That's where that comes from. And they always would sacrifice a white rabbit because it symbolized purity and fertility. And so we have now the symbol of a white rabbit, we have a symbol of painting the eggs. All of this came from Ishtar, the goddess of fertility in Persia, that went and moved into Europe when the Khazars invaded Europe. Okay. So they took that holiday and they made it Easter.
I see. So that means, in essence, and as we've kind of developed not only in this program but in others, and in other programs on this station, that basically Christianity was a derivative of paganism.
Yes.
Okay. So now here's the big $64,000 question. So that means that there never was a resurrection.
No.
Okay. Now, you know what some people are gonna say.
Oh, listen, I'm trashed all the time. Get to the back of the line if you want to.
Right now, people are either clicking off their computers, or they're going to grab a glass of water or something.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you. Anyone listening to the show anyway, or has an interest in these subjects, can't possibly be a religious person anyway.
True. And I will tell you this, Stewart. When we did a survey on our blog page of the Bible, what they believed of the Bible, 90% of those people who listen to this program, 90% of them stated that the Bible was a book created by man.
Well, I'll tell you what, and that goes back to the Bible Code, which I've written about, I believe, in Blue Blood, and subsequently, where if you take the original 5 books of Moses in the original Hebrew without any separation of the words, and you plug it into a computer, as they did at Hebrew University in Jerusalem, you will see that there are secret codes embedded in it. And when you put those codes together, they produce hyperspace symbols, like I teach in my language of hyperspace class.
Right.
So you have to realize that human beings did not create that code. They couldn't possibly back then, because it even says in the code that this would be uncovered with computers, and it says that in the 5 books of Moses code. So this was an alien creation. This was created as a programming for mankind.
And we've certainly seen evidence of that. There's been many different documentaries, and there's many different researchers and authors who have detailed or dealt with the whole idea of Bible codes. Even some Christian theologians have been considering the theory of Bible codes. So this is not, again, like I mentioned at the offset of this program, we're not introducing anything new or anything mysterious or anything that would be even remotely considered theory or conjecture. We're basically connecting the dots. Now, that leads me to another question, Stewart.
Yeah.
The Shroud of Turin.
Oh, yes. I've written about that as well. And, for many centuries it was believed to be the shroud that was put on Christ upon his death. And then some scientists about 20 years or so ago did some research, and they said, oh, no, this is a hoax. It was made in the Middle Ages, and it was some ingenious design, but it's not real. And then we find a couple years after that a fire at the church at Turin, and the shroud vanished. And then it turned up years later with Israeli scientists who then were studying it, found within the shroud, embedded in the fibers, pollen